Josh, how do we get to $430 billion with this announcement?
So, Morgan, it is a big new bogey from Tim Cook's company. Apple now saying it's going to spend $430 billion in the United States by 2026. And that is up from a 5-year goal of $350 billion that the company announced back in 2018. Now, that $430 billion includes spending with Apple's American suppliers, data centers, and capital expenditures. And here was some news as well. Apple also says it's going to spend $1 billion as it builds a new campus in North Carolina and creating 3,000 new jobs there. Apple COO Jeff Williams saying in a statement, as a North Carolina native, I'm thrilled Apple is expanding and creating new long-term job opportunities in the community that I grew up in. Now, local reports do suggest that Apple qualified for an incentive program in North Carolina for companies that create 3,000 jobs and invest at least $1 billion. Under that program, Apple can receive grants from North Carolina totaling more than $29 million a year once they do hire those 3,000 people, or $800 million in total. You know, Apple can counter that its investments in North Carolina are expected, it says, to generate over $1.5 billion in economic benefits annually for the state. It's establishing a $100 million fund to support schools and community initiatives there, and contributing over $110 million in infrastructure spending. In total, Apple now saying it's going to create an additional 20,000 jobs over the next 5 years across this country, including many high-paying ones in cutting-edge industries, it says, like AI, 5G, and silicon engineering. Back to you all.
Yeah. I'm still a little, riddle me confused. I still don't understand how this is a $430 billion investment, specifically how we get to that number. But nonetheless, I am curious about the site selection, the fact that they're expanding in a state like North Carolina. I mean, I just think back to the HQ2 Amazon contest of a couple of years ago. I mean, what was that selection? Did they give any kind of color on why they decided to land there and some of the other locations?
Well, first of all, for the 430, Morgan, so you're going to be spending money, obviously, on thousands and thousands of American suppliers. It's data centers, it's CapEx. It's also tens of billions of dollars, they say, on next-gen silicon engineering and 5G innovation. As for North Carolina, there was, as I noted there, an incentive program that Apple, like every other tech company, every other company, is going to crunch the numbers and do what they think is in the best interest of their shareholders, and they're going to take advantage of that. I was actually talking to our colleague Robert Frank, and Robert obviously knows this space better than anybody. What's interesting about it is that a lot of states have talked about reducing those incentives, as Robert points out. But when you see news like this, it seems to indicate that those state incentives are very much alive, popular, and red hot as they compete for those tech jobs.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.